Mabuhay!
Hi! Welcome to
The Babaylan Bruha Book Club podcast.
It's your village kapwatids, Steph
and Aimee, and here we are together again. And as always, in efforts to decolonize our minds, bodies, and reconnect with spirit by ways of relation via conversation, of education, interpretation, and integration.
So this is our invitation for you to join us on our journeys as we discuss the works of honored artists, authors, and thought leaders in the Filipinx diaspora.
Quick disclaimer, we want to acknowledge that in this moment, everyone is exactly where they need to be.
And since we are not experts, yet we share our own unique lived experiences, we invite you to take or toss any statements, opinions, words that we may use as you choose.
We are so glad you found your way here.
So as always, before we begin, we want to take a moment to ground, taking a pause, drop into your bodies, and become fully present in this space. If it's safe for you, we invite you to close your eyes, straighten your spine, and direct your focus now to your breath. I'm going to invite you to take a few deep inhales, extending your belly out. And then exhale, bring your belly button in. Let's do once more. Inhale. And exhale. Continue as you like, but just connect back into your body and into this moment. Don't worry about tomorrow, what you're doing after this, or today, yesterday. Can you just allow yourself to feel what it's like to let go? So as we begin our conversation, we'd like to thank God, Batala Creator, for another gathering. In gratitude, we acknowledge our benevolent ancestors and invite all the forces to support and guide this conversation today. Thanking the ancestors of the lands Aimee and I currently reside on, knowing that we cannot do our own remembrance without remembering them. For me, that's the Bay Miwok people in the Inland Bay Area of California. And for Aimee, that's the mound builders that are the Hopewell and Adena people in Ohio. With gratitude, we acknowledge your presence, dear Kapwatid, your energy, your light, no matter wherever and whenever you're tuning in.
Okay, Babaylan Brujas, we're back with another episode, and you know how it goes. We do Bruha Tings check, then Brown Girl Cliff Notes, and then have a conversation from there. So, Bruha Tings, just want to check in with ourselves, see what our rituals and practices are like, and Steph is gonna go first, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. 90 seconds to keep the structure. And go.
Bruha Tings, I have been realizing that I can get out of emotional states by practicing all the Bruha Tings. So part of my Bruha this week was actually, I fell in with the seasons, my own season. My moon was here, new moon's coming in. I don't know if y'all's heard, there's like 9 planets in retrograde spinning backwards. So your girl was bound to be caught in some type of gravitational internal external pull. And so it was just imperative. I mean, was there for some parts of thank you, sis. Rely on your sisters too. Lean on your community for healing. But the individual things, like I definitely dove into meditation much more in depth. I definitely sat with God, creator, for a minute, and cleared the air, all those things, journaled, right? And then a Bruha manifestation was I was sitting outside and it was coming out of the spiral and God was just everywhere. Like squirrels were running. There's like 2 butterflies who passed. Feathers have been falling everywhere. I'm landing and things. So that's how I know I'm divinely guided and protected. And that's how I know,
Yes.
I see I saw super more angel numbers yesterday. So anyways, if you call in the Bruha Tings and you do it with intention and reverence, like, and just let it sit, like when we make our Bruha like brews,
Yes.
it's like an
Yes.
energetic brew. That's what I did this week, and
Yes.
so much better, so much better. But I went through it. I went through an ego death this week, but the Bruha Tings brought me back.
Yay.
Yeah.
I'm so glad, Sissy. That's so good. Good
Thank
job.
you.
And sometimes those bruja things take time, which is why, like, I'm realizing I get to be like, that's why it's a practice. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're brewing tea or you're making a salve or whatever, like those things take time to like seep and integrate into whatever you're making.
Yes,
So it's the
yes.
same thing
Mm.
with like meditation. Like, yeah, it's you're having a bad day, like one meditation practice might not like help you right away, but like you continually do it, and that's how it can be a support. So
Yeah, yeah. I
yeah.
think it's Bruja because we have to fall into faith, like,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is spirituality and religion, right?
Yes.
You don't
Yes,
see
yes,
it, but
yes.
okay.
Okay, I'm ready.
Your turn.
I'm ready.
Let me put my timer. 1 minute and 30 seconds. And go.
Okay, so my bruja things I'm talk about are one, that I'm doing mirror work, plant. I want to shout out to plant medicine and shout out to naps. Mirror work, like I've heard a lot of talk about it, and some people are like say that it's scary because you're like staring at yourself in the mirror or whatever. But I've kind of felt called to do it. And like I realized you never really look at yourself. So for me to look at myself in the mirror and just speak to myself and like even touch my body, touch parts of my body that I don't really touch in like
Ooh,
in
mhm.
even energetically with good intention, just to like love on myself. So that's
Mhm.
been intense, but it's been really good. Plant medicine, let me tell you, thank you,
Game
plant
changer.
medicine.
It's
It's a good reset. And speaking of resets, I realized naps. Naps are bruja tings. Naps are magical. They energetically reset you. We were talking about naps like right before we hit
took one.
record.
I both did.
Yeah, we both we both took a
Took a
nap
nap.
before. But like it just helps so much to reset, and I always forget. And I never take time, but that's also decolonization. Naps are decolonization. So those are three major bruja things in my life right now.
Naps. Yes, yes, yes. The magic of rest.
Yeah.
That's a Bruja thing, right?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
wasn't like witching all the time.
What?
We weren't witching all the time. We rested too.
Yeah. Yeah. What did you say about your one teacher, Miriam? What did she say about naps?
Oh, yeah. One of my teachers says, um, if you can take a nap midday and in a capitalistic society, that's successful.
All
That's
right.
success.
Success. So,
'Cause capitalism tells you not to rest,
mhm,
So
mhm.
yeah.
So there we go. Babaylan Brujas. This has been your Bruja check. Check in with yourself. See what things you can revisit or add or subtract, or like when you can take a nap. And bless you in your naps.
Have a happy napping.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're on to Brown Girl Cliff Notes. And welcome back to chapter 3. This one was interesting too. I mean, the whole book will be, I imagine, but this one was about boats and languages. Um, we were voyagers. Dr. Judy couldn't have affirmed this better with all the historical references in this chapter, citing Disney's famous Moana as the latest character and probably the closest indigenous resemblance on a media screen to inspire us to connect to our ancestral ways, but to portray a deeper dive into the history of our ancestors' journeyings and what the pathway created for their posterities to come. So this chapter is all about the mindful intricacy Filipinos efforted into handcrafting wooden outrigger boats, which are called barangays, etc. As y'all know, I looked it up too. Bruha Tings is like, according to Google, we have more than 111 dialects in the Philippines. So barangay is also referenced as different ways boats that supported their rather comfortable sounding expeditions, expanding civilization, developing communities around the islands. In addition, lots of Austronesian connections, which can further lead Filipinos to trace back into our lineage origins. So we got Austronesian cousins, y'all. We know this because according to historians, Filipinos would land and leave traces of their wreck fragments and even chicken DNA. Hey, hey, ho, ho. We did have hey, heys around too. Like Moana. Remember the chicken?
Yeah, the chicken. Hey, hey.
Yes, they talk about chicken DNA in this chapter. So
That's
yeah,
right.
read it.
Yeah.
It's not that long, y'all. Through carbon dating back to 320 CE, science journalists and historians have been able to envision thoughts on how those island hopping boats would yield such diverse populations of Filipinos through the years, containing major linguistic groups such as the Austronesians, again, our cousins, who traveled from far-flung lands, passing from China into the Pacific, settling as far east as Easter Island and as far west as Madagascar. So it's no wonder that the Philippines has more than 111 dialects. Extra recommended reading, she did cite From the Sea to the Stars, The Forgotten Journeys of the Philippines' Ancient Explorers. It's a paper by, Kuya, Timothy, James Dimacali, and it sounds a lot like Moana.
Yeah. Yeah, that was interesting. I kind of want to read that paper. So, the one that you just cited.
Yeah.
For that work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sissy, for that Brown Girl Cliff Notes. And I don't have anything to add. I think we should just get into it.
Let's get into it.
Okay. Okay, so let's just hop into vocabulary words. I'll go first. And like we were talking about barangay earlier from Brown Girl Cliff Notes, that is my vocabulary word. So I'll read a little bit. These boats were identified as barangays, which were a fundamental part of pre-colonial Filipinos' social life and progress. Barangay, balangay, balanghay, or balangay with a G-A, there's different spellings. Several iterations of the name for this type of a boat appear in Philippine dialects. These boats were used by ancient Filipinos as they journeyed to the islands, and Dimacali said there are stories of hand-carved wooden boats so large that they could carry entire extended families, yet light enough that they could be lifted on the shoulders of a few dozen men and deployed at a moment's notice. No mere dugout canoes, these flexible boats could sail both deep ocean waters and shallow island reefs, a versatility that left Spaniards with their gross and heavy ships, those were his words, gross and heavy ships, in awe. Spanish accounts might have captured a snapshot of Filipinos at a moment in time, but ancient Filipinos had been thriving on the islands for thousands of years. So, Ate Judy goes on to say that we were connected to the Austronesians, and I wanted to read a little bit more about the barangay. So warriors stood on a platform made of bamboo above the oarsmen so they would not interfere with rowing. Thick bamboo outriggers ran along both sides of these ships and skimmed over the water. These outriggers acted as a counterbalance so that the ship would not capsize, no matter how rough the seas became or how strong the wind filled the sails. So they talk about how there were different sorts of boats. So there were boats for the warriors, but then there were other boats that were like support boats. So it was like a whole thing. Like families could ride, like whole villages could be like on these fucking barangays. And my mom always talked about, because she grew up in the province, but she would call it the barangay. And I was like, wait, what? And then so on page 58, these barangays back pre-colonial were more than just modes of transportation. In 1663, Francis Collin said Filipino society was divided into barangays, which he likened to districts. He said ancient Filipinos traveled on these boats with their extended families, settled on the islands, and established communities with their shipmates. So it was like the boats were like a big thing. And so page 58 says the barangay remains the basic political unit in the Philippines today. So the barangay became sort of a community because the communities were on the boats that were the barangay. But now that we're not necessarily seafaring anymore, the barangay has become like a political unit or a community unit. And then remember, the banca, right? Banca. Have you heard of that word, banca?
Yeah.
Yeah. So banca and barangay are kind of like the same thing. Yeah, they're the same thing. So pre-colonial barangay is the banca of today, and the modern barangay is actually a basic political unit in the Philippines. Does that make sense?
Barangay.
Yeah, like a county.
It sounds like gang. It sounds like gang to like. It sounds like, I mean, it's tribe, like
Barkada.
barangay,
Barangay.
gang,
Gang. Yeah, but I thought that was very interesting that basically whole communities were just on ships and stuff. Like, that's crazy. And then it makes me think about two things. So one, my family is from a fishing village. So whenever I visited, we would always go on bancas, like the boats that they're talking about. And then they have those little floaty things on the sides and like, the outrigger in the middle. So we would like go to different like tiny beaches on those boats and everything. So it makes me think of that. And then it makes me wonder a lot about like just like how Moana in the movie navigated by the stars, like we were connected to the cosmos.
We were.
Yeah. Are. But like I feel like
yeah.
there are things that puzzle pieces. That's this part of our soul that we're still calling back, right?
Yeah. So. Ooh, yeah. Whoa.
Yeah. So
you think decolonizing is like all about like our lineage going through a soul recall? Because it's like 500 plus years of like the Philippine. I want to know what we were called before the Philippines. That's the biggest question I just want to put out there. Anybody listening?
Everybody has that question. Like, oh, I mean,
we're not.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just saying we were not called Phillips Land.
No.
What the hell were we?
Well, yeah, I don't know. Were we just called by our tribes or our regions? Like maybe because I know we were technically the Philippines. We were like different tribes, and then
something, yeah. And they grouped us all together, named us under one king. Who the fuck? Like, Does that, you know what that means? Like, it's just years and years of branding. Like, I bet you 200 years from now, we're not gonna be called Filipinos anymore. We're actually gonna be called. Someone will find it.
Someone will find it. Yeah. Well, there's this word you heard of Maharlika, right?
Yes.
Maharlika. I'm sorry to bring it up and not know the history behind it or where it comes from or whatever, but I know that some people think that's what we were called before, Maharlika.
Maharlikins?
Yeah, Maharlikins. So I know I came across a Instagram talking about how that's what we should call ourselves again, but then we can't ever agree on anything.
Yeah, 111 dialects. Good luck. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying about maybe we just need to go back to the different regions. Like, I'm not Filipino, I'm Visayan. You know what I'm saying?
Ah, maybe some of those, like, OG ones, elders in the village are like, don't call yourself Filipino. That's the oppressors. You're Visayan or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I don't know. Who knows? But
you're onto something, sis. Because that could be the colonized term of compartmentalizing all of us into one thing.
Yeah.
We're really different. Like, you, Visayan, Ilocano, like,
Yeah.
like that's what you should be calling.
Yeah, Luzon, Mindanaoan or whatever, because maybe that's why we can't figure it out. Like, there's so much discourse online about what were we called before, and so should we be called Maharlikins or should we be called whatever, this or that? And maybe we can't decide because we weren't all from the same sort of place. Like, the Philippines is how many islands? Like, thousands of islands. And so, like, I know we all traded and got along, but we weren't under one king. We weren't under one government. We all had different barangays, but that we were in different villages and stuff. So
yeah, there's no like one harmonizing. You know what? I was at an island reggae concert last night.
Yeah.
And it was the most beautifully diverse crowd I've seen. I was just chuckling about like so many brown derivatives and how like I was like, brown people really do know how to bring all different types. Like, there was peppered in. I was like, what do you call white people? Salt and pepper. They're like flaky in the crowd, right? And you have black people, you got Hispanic, you got really interesting people. But one thing that they can chant that everybody just understands is the Chihu. That's right.
Oh yeah.
Like,
yeah,
everybody does that. Everybody throws up the shaka. Like, it's
yeah.
just like one thing. But I was like, maybe I'll mention this the podcast tomorrow. But I was sitting there, like, imagine if like Filipinos just threw up all their. It would be totally different stuff. It'd be like barangay.
Yeah, just like Babaylan, Catalonan.
Babayan, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, dang, can we just have one unified cat dang?
I don't know.
We had to be colonized for maybe in a way that could be okay. This is probably going down the rabbit hole, but like,
let's go down
the colonizer was like, y'all are too unorganized. We're just gonna organize you.
Yeah. Well, yeah. What? Okay. We weren't unorganized. Maybe we weren't unorganized. They just couldn't control us when we're all separate. So they just said, I'm gonna just lump you in all together.
Yeah, like they did to any other indigenous freaking
people. Yeah.
Anyway.
We'll
get there. We'll get there. But barangay.
Barangay. That was my vocab word. And I am complete, sissy.
Okay. Lutao. That's my words on page 56. I just picked Lutao because since we're talking a lot about boats. Lutao comes up as referencing a peoples that lived in the water. So given that the Philippines is an archipelago with 250,000 miles of coastline, it made sense that pre-colonial Filipinos were expert seafarers. What fascinated me were multiple Spanish accounts that describe Filipinos' maritime expertise. I'll read these two little short paragraphs. In 1667, Francisco Columbus, a Jesuit priest, described the Lutao people as common to the islands of Mindanao, Jolo, and Basilan. And they are so fond of living on the sea, quote, that their houses are built in it, in places which the low tide leaves exposed. When it is high tide, the houses are very far from the shore, and the water in between is so deep that large ships can sail there. This seems fitting because Lutao means to float in the Visayan dialect. Holmes said that Lutao engaged in trading and sea piracy because, quote, their wings are those of royal falcons. They are most eager for that exercise as they are assured by these advantages from all danger, for whether it be because of the swiftness of their ships or because of their skill in rowing them, no ship of ours has ever been able to overtake them. So that's the Lutao people, y'alls. Just an example of, I don't know, brown people being resilient and laughing at the colonizer.
Yeah. You think they
So-
burned our ships, Sissy?
Who?
The
The-
colonizers.
Oh yeah, probably.
God damn it.
You think?
Yeah, so we couldn't go nowhere. Because you know what I'm saying? They probably like burned our ships. Because if it says here that the swiftness of their ships, they weren't able to overtake them because of their skill in rowing and the swiftness of their ships.
Oh yeah, I mean, it makes sense that they attack.
And we've forgotten that we're seafarers, you know?
Isn't that crazy? And you know, I was reminiscing about dreams, and
Yeah.
when we were going through the Mayari circle, a lot of water dreams were coming online. And I remember like being out in the water and looking down, like we were living on those civilizations with like the look at your eyes, like
Sorry. Usually if you're not on the YouTube,
her eyes are
like,
yeah.
yeah.
We were lit out. We were living on the water.
That's crazy. Like when I hear that, like the feeling of it feels so far away. Does that, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm like, we're seafarers. And I know that like logically, right? Like intellectually, but I still haven't remembered it. Like
In your body.
yeah. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. But like, what does that mean? Like, I know I've always felt connected to the ocean. And even when I go to the woods here, I'm always finding a stream because I know instinctually that streams lead to rivers, rivers lead to oceans, right? Eventually.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm thinking of like seafarers, like we fare the seas, like the water, we follow the water. And that maybe that's why like I always feel, I would say in humans in general, but like I'm like I need to be by the beach. Like love the mountains and stuff, but there's nothing like the beach.
Yeah, there is nothing like the
For
just
me.
being on the ocean, like seeing a big, vast ocean. I sometimes do feel like Moana when she sings that song where it's like where she's talking about the horizon, like she just wants to go there, like she wants to go out.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm still scared to be underwater though. I don't know. That's a thing.
Water is scary. That's a real, yeah. So I get
Like
it.
a whole new space. But I used to swim. So I mean, I have talked about this, y'all. It's like something was triggered from me. I think it's a past life trauma, underwater, mermaids or stuff like that. But anyways, yeah, Lutao, we lived on the water, and now I just want to say this: why people go to like Fiji or just to stay on those those huts that are on the water. It's like our ancestors been doing that. So it's funny to me, but
Yeah.
I digress.
Yeah. 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 Okay, sis. Thank you.
All right. Time for quotes. Y'all still there? Hanging in with us? Mine's on page 53. And I picked the dialects section that at the Judy referenced because I thought it was interesting. So again, we're going back to our Austronesian Aita, I think cousins. But there's a professor at the Australian National University of Archaeology and Anthropology. He's written extensively on the similarities among the cultures and language of people in these quote far-flung lands, right? But she says, after Judy says, this is probably explains why there are over 100 languages in the Philippines. During my first year in the University of the Philippines, I lived in the freshman dorm, appropriately called Kalayaan. And I was like, oh shit, which means freedom in Tagalog. But Tagalog, actually Babayan, Tagalog isn't the only language being spoken there. I remember meals at the dining hall were probably like being in the Tower of Babel as students from all over the archipelago gathered and chatted in their home dialects.
Mm-hmm.
So modern science has discovered that languages are not the only thing that connected the Austronesian groups. So I just thought that was cool. I think we already kind of talked about, but the dialect piece is. I've always wondered why we can't get into one dang language, and this makes sense now after this chapter.
So. Yeah, because we didn't have one. I had read, oh geez. You guys, this is just a conversation, okay? I read all these things and I forget where I read them at, but
at your sources.
She
just knows.
Okay? Yeah, well, just over the years, reading about the history of the Philippines and how it was colonized, the Tagalogs in Luzon, for some reason, I forget the reason why, but they were the ones that were chosen to be the dialect, as to be the Philippine dialect. So
who? By who?
By the Spanish. The Spanish said, you guys, you.
Who contracted that? Like,
I have no idea. There is a, again, I gotta cite my sources. I know, but again, this is a conversation. I am not an expert. Just
right. Oh, yeah,
we are not experts.
We're experienced. Yep.
Yeah, but like I had read that the Tagalogs, the Tagalogs were one of the groups that was trying to like that kind of got close to the Spanish, you know.
Of course.
So then they got the power or whatever. I don't know.
They brown nosed their way into becoming our main dialect.
Yeah, something like that.
The brown people brown nosed their way.
Like, I mean, they did what they had to do, I guess.
But I guess, I don't know, paradox. Like, you preserved a language, yes, but you also schmoozed to do it.
Yeah. But I mean, we still kept our other dialects, obviously. Like there's so many other dialects, but it's just really like, we are not the Philippines. We do not all speak Tagalog. We are not like we're just not one sort of people, you know? We're
many sorts.
We're many sorts of people. So yeah. So interesting to see.
Dialects.
Okay. Are you complete?
Yeah.
Okay. My quote is on pages 59 and 60. So Ate Judy is talking about, again, this whole chapter is about boats and languages. So she said, I wondered how pre-colonial Filipinos managed to row in sync. Was there someone to whip them into shape, just like the Vikings, or did they perhaps row to the beat of the drum like modern dragon boats? Morga said Filipinos, quote unquote, time their rowing to the accompaniment of some men who sing refrains in their language, thereby giving them the cue to slow down or to quicken their pace. And here I thought that the impromptu singing only happened in Disney movies. These songs were said to have contained many interesting and important bits of history as well as legendary lore. What I learned about these pre-colonial boats came from written Spanish accounts. Unfortunately, the songs about our ancestors have faded into history. Wah, wah, wah.
But we can rewrite them. I wrote that.
Oh, yes, I like that. And I also wrote like so many karaoke references. I wrote a karaoke last time, but I said, do we love karaoke and singing because we're longing to sing the songs we forgot?
Oh, that's a poem.
Maybe, yeah. But like,
One-liner.
and there are some Filipinos with some strong ass voices. And I'm like, and I always wondered, why are voices so strong? And I'm like, maybe because we had to be louder than the ocean.
Oh.
We had to be louder than the ocean, louder than the rowing of the boat, the rowing of the oars. There had to be people who had strong ass voices so that they could carry, the cue. Carry the
Maybe that's why maybe that's why we love karaoke. And maybe that's why this is just a hypothesis of why people are like depressed, because they're not using their voices, or they're not
and then I thought about too how in this modern day society singing is so performance and it's like commodified and capitalized. Like, you shouldn't even sing unless you can do a run, unless you can sing well. Do you know what I mean? But
whereas like Hawaiian Island, Polynesian people, they just freaking sing.
They just sing.
When I was doing when I was in Halau, they're like, the teacher's like, just sing. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you go to the islands, they don't care. They're off tone. They just sing.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, American program, like, okay, like I'm supposed to be in two. That was me.
Yeah.
Speak for me. Like, okay, so.
Yeah, but everybody deserves to use their chakra voice, their throat chakras, to exercise their voices, no matter what you sound like. And if singing was such a big thing for us, like, we should just sing more, no matter how we sound,
Well, you have a good voice, so that's a voice privilege. I have some friends who sing, and I love them down, but like, you should just sing. You should. But when they sing, it makes me joyful, because they're like, I don't care. Like, I sound so terrible, but I'm gonna sing anyway.
And listen, this was communal singing for a purpose, like for rowing and stuff. And so it wasn't just one person. It was like several people, men, men who sing the refrain. So it was like communal. So, and I know that if you sing with somebody else who knows how to sing, you automatically sing better, because you follow the person who has who can carry the tune, right? And so it's like, of course, maybe people can't sing well on their own, but what do we sound like in a group? Like, maybe that's why we're supposed to sing together. It's like a communal thing.
This is why concerts are, I feel like, the church for folks who don't necessarily, like, they're like so into, I'll speak for me, because I'm like, I miss that aspect of church, of singing in a group. And so last night there was an MC and he was stalling for a long time. I won't go on that tangent. But it was like, let's sing a Lauryn Hill song, and now let's sing a Keisha Cole, and everybody is like, lit on their wave. So, people are like belting love, all that stuff. And I was like, this is basically a concert karaoke right now. Like, and in some ways, like, it's healing, because like you're around, everyone's, enjoying themselves, having a good time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very it's communal. It changes the vibe, it changes the energy of a space when you sing certain songs or whatever. So
Yep.
I don't know, I just thought that was interesting. Like two things
Yeah.
that we haven't really, like maybe parts of the Filipino, quote unquote Filipino soul, that we're still calling back, like our voices, our songs, and the fact that we were seafarers. Like still I'm like, what? And like my family is from a small fishing village, like that's what we do, and I still like,
Would you ever call your relative and be like, is there a song or like a, like
uh,
I think of like things like it's how my mind goes, but like, what if they were singing songs about like making adobo when they get to the shore? Like
yeah.
1, 2, 1, hey, hey, 2, hey, hey. Then you take the adobo, you take the garlic and you mash it and you
Yeah. They're talking about how to make rice, how to roll lumpia.
something because they was probably hungry. Like, we need to
Yeah.
find land so we can land and cook these chickens,
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that was my quote, and just thought about how we all need
Row,
to
row, row your boat, sis.
row your boat.
Can we get a Filipino version? Somebody out there.
Row your banca.
Hey, right, sis.
Gently
Gently
down
the ocean.
the
Gently down the sea.
Oh, there you go. Not merrily. There's another word, but anyway.
You could even like not unmerrily running away from the colonizer. Fucking asshole.
Yes.
Gonna burn this boat.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So.
Anyway.
Okay, sis.
Okay.
Okay. So, as we end our conversation and close out this container with so much gratitude, once again, we recognize and honor all the ancestors and all the ancestors of the lands we all occupy. And we also recognize and honor you, dear Kapwatid, for joining our conversation today. And as always, Stephanie and I leave you with a blessing. On your journey towards remembrance, may you find your true voice and true song. When you find yourself overwhelmed in the sea of modern times, may you tune into your inner navigation system and find there the kalayaan and peace that your intuition brings. May the remembrance of Kapwa anchor you into your heart, and until we meet again, may you know that all is well and will be well, and that no matter what happens, you are